putting the drill bit in the chuck and then just turn it by hand, I went around to every hole and put about 4 or 5 threads in it with that little guy there. So now I can come back. I blew the dirt out and it chips out of the hole. I can come back like this and run the tap down in there a ways, and everything should come out really lovely. As long as I know when I get to the bottom of the hole and I don't break off the tap. So now I've got to do this 9 times, and then we'll move on to the next step, which I will bring you right back for. Okay, I've cleaned the chips out as good as I can, and it's got 9 holes. Okay, now right here we need a hex so I can put a socket on it. That's what we're going to make next. This indexing fixture was given to me by one of my viewers, Mr. Jorian Khan, and I thought, well, that looks like it's, you know, got a lot of promise for uses. And sure enough, right here where it's hard to hold something that I want to turn around and index, there we are. It's got a chuck on it just right for this. It's small enough to move around. And now I want to cut a hex right up here, and that means that I need to move it 60 degrees 3 times. And the reason I say 3 times, I can cut down each side and do both 2 sides of it at once. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get accustomed to moving it 60 degrees, and you know, I'll practice that a little bit, and I'm going to put a end mill in the machine there instead of that drill chuck, and we'll get on with making a hex. Let you guys take a little nap while I do all the preparation. Alright, I left my DRO turned on since the last time I was in here, so I know that absolute zero is still right in the middle of that thing. And I did some figuring to find out how far to move over to be even with the edge. I'm still feeling a little dizzy from all that figuring, but anyway, that's what I did. And I moved over 0.613 thousandths to the left, and sure enough, that clears it. That clears the edge just barely. So that gives me a reason to think that I got the number right. So what I'm going to do, I've got her set on 0. I want to come along here and make a couple little cuts to get this side down where it needs to be a 1/2 inch. And then I'll come over and cut on this side, get it down to where it needs to be for a 1/2 inch. And we'll measure the little bugger and we'll see how we come out. So let me find a good place for you guys to stand and watch, and then we'll crank up. Alright, according to my calculations, I need to move into the piece 0.176 thousandths. Alright, so I'm going to do this like, you know, if you had a pig that saved your life, you wouldn't want to eat it all at one time. I'm going to treat this like that, and I'm going to do like 25 thousandths and see if the little fixture stays in place and the piece stays in place, and we'll just kind of gnaw at it, sort of easy like. This time I intend to get the thing running in the right direction. I ran this exact same end mill through a piece of 1/2 inch aluminum running backwards. Doesn't look to me like it moved any, so I'm going to mark it with a felt tip marker so I can tell for sure if it moves, and then I'll come back and take another bite. Unlike a fellow that's trying to make a living doing this, time doesn't mean anything here. I can take all the time I want. Everything's on time and on schedule, so we'll just make one more cut and then I'll move it around to the other side and we'll do the exact same thing over there. And I'm doing it in 25,000 increments because the distance, the length of cut gets bigger every time here. So it jumped, which means that I'm going to have to inspect the situation, and I'll get back to you guys in a bit. Alright, so since I wasn't in very far, the little jump didn't make any difference, and if I keep my cuts really low, like 5 thousandths or something, I can still cut it without worrying about it moving. So I'm going to let you guys sleep while I sweat, and then I'll finish making these two first cuts and I'll bring you right back. I don't worry about the camera while I'm working. Okay, I got her cut and most of the sides are in the .499 range, so I think that's pretty close to a 1/2 inch, and it's a hex, and we're very near finished. Let me pull it out of there. There you are, hex, cut right. Now I got to put screws in there, and we'll see where we go from there. Alright, I've got all those screws in there, but I don't need the screw heads, so I'm going to try to mill those off so that everybody's the same height and all that. I think one of the screws was a different length from the rest of them. Okay, anyway, let's give it a shot and see if I'm able to clean it up. That one bent, so I gotta fix that. I'll be back. Alright, here's the finished product. While I was grinding the heads off those screws, I decided to go ahead and glue the little booger also. So now we want to proof the pudding, right? See if it works. So we'll move this guy right here, pointing toward the knee. Grab my drill, and we'll see if I can crank her down the other way. Whoa. This 12-point socket's not going to work on there. That is a 1/2 inch, believe me. I'm going to have to get a 6-point socket and put on it. But I think it'll work. I'll quit using this thing too. This impact is a little too rough. But I know it fits, and when I get a 1/2 inch whatever to go on there, I know it'll work too. Alright, this is a 6-point wrench, and as you can see, it's not going to slip. In fact, it's a 13 millimeter, which is a tiny bit bigger than a 1/2 inch. But nevertheless, I'll get me a 6-point socket and put on there, and I've got it. And I'm sure you were saying, well, this old idiot, why didn't he just cut the teeth in it like everybody else? Well, about a year ago, well, not a year ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I saw Mr. Pete make one of these for his Bridgeport. Of course, I didn't have a Bridgeport to make one for, but I was sitting there wondering, I wonder how it would be if he just used some pins on it, you know, got some tool steel or something, drilled holes and set some pins in there. And so now I've got a Bridgeport clone, and I thought, well, I'll make one, and I thought I don't want to order any tool steel, and I don't want to have to ream the holes, so I'll just put screws in there, and that works. They hold just as good as tool steel, and they're not going to be as hard, but you know, I don't think the service calls for any really super hard stuff. Alright, now couple other little things. As you can see, there's a green machine sitting there. I ordered it on the 1st of the month, and it's sitting on the Amazon website in stock on the 30th. So I got a little notice from Amazon saying it'd be delivered between December the 3rd and December the 7th. I thought, well, son of a gun, they must have meant it was in stock in China. Well, in about 4 days, this showed up. It's been here, I guess, since midweek, you know, and I'm tickled to death. I think it came on Thursday, as a matter of fact. And I'm not going to tell you what this is about until I start the video on it, but it's a cooperative project between Engineered 3D channel and me, and come back for the next exciting episode, and maybe you'll find out what the heck's going on. Let's go see what Bubba's doing. Boudreaux and Thibodeau went up to North Louisiana to this resort, rented them a boat and out fishing, you know, and they'd fished all day and they hadn't caught nothing, you know, until it said, Boudreaux, this ain't no good, this is bad stuff, you know. He says, this ain't no fun. So they crank up the boat and they move further out into the other part of the lake. All of a sudden they started catching fish just right and left. They're just pulling them in. They got all their limit and then some, you know. And so Thibodeau tells Boudreaux, he says, hey, Boudreaux, he says, throw me that piece of chalk there. So Boudreaux throws chalk over to Thibodeau and says, what for do you want that? You know, and Thibodeau says, what? He says, I'm going to make me a mark on the side of this here boat so next time we know where to get these fish. Boudreaux saw, he said, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my whole life. He says, he says, that's just plumb stupid. He says, how do you know we're going to get this same boat the next time, Kuyan? Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.